What is going on, everybody? Happy to welcome you into the Traded Black podcast. I'm your host, Shad Dales. Well, it's Wednesday, and rumors continue to heat up. A lot of noise going on right now about rescheduling. What does it all mean? I think the big takeaway here today is really understand where we're at and what are the next steps, because I know a lot of you are asking a lot of questions. We're looking at Twitter right now. There's a lot of conversation going on. So what does this all mean, especially with the news from former Senator Mitch McConnell yesterday talking about this hemp ban, what that means as well. So lots to dive into. Marc Cohodes is going to join us once again. So we're in for a banger podcast. So thanks for checking in. Let's welcome in AV here on a Wednesday. Good to see you. Lots going on.
How's it going? Yeah, it's been a busy 48 hours since we last spoke.
When we look back over the last couple of years and some of those dog days, these are the days that I think in some ways, like I want to manage expectations because we still don't know what's going on, but it's good to see that we're getting a lot of attention right now regarding this space. And here we are. Usually July is a quiet time of the year for this industry, but more and more people that historically and traditionally are not involved in the cannabis space are starting to have a voice on Twitter now. And these are people with big followings. So I don't know what you make of it, but it sure seems like some of the stuff is calculated. But again, want to manage expectations.
I mean, it looks. I don't think it could be anything but calculated. You had a bunch of very large, multi-million follower accounts that were MAGA key opinion leaders teeing off about rescheduling in unison, following Mike Tyson. That looked like it was. Orders were given by somebody to put a communication strategy together around rescheduling and see how it resonates. It had to have been concerted. That wasn't just coincidence, or because those accounts decided to start to get on the bandwagon of cannabis. You had Mr. Bruzowitz from X Strategies, who's one of Trump's main guys as it relates to his communication strategy, and guy that's been traveling with Trump for months now, talk about rescheduling. That's kind of when I took a pause and was like, all right, well, this is valid with what's going on. You're not going to have one of Trump's guys as it relates to strategy and his agenda on social issues, and someone that's been traveling with him on Air Force One talk about cannabis, not by design.
That's telling, real telling. With that, let's get into today's podcast. Let's welcome back former hedge fund manager and institutional investor, Mr. Marc Cohodes. It's been 9 days, got a lot of great feedback from your first appearance. So again, thank you for coming on. Again, thank you for taking the time. But how are you, sir? Good to see you, and lots going on, don't you think?
I'm living the dream. Thanks for having me, guys. I mean, there's a lot going on. And as I mentioned to you, you guys have been at it for a bit. It's been quite the fight for you. But I think what's coming down the pike is going to be something you're going to tell your kids and your kids' kids about, of where you were when prohibition in cannabis, or better yet, let's just call it the plant, ended. And prohibition is a problem. Prohibition never works. It doesn't work for booze, doesn't work for gambling, doesn't work for abortion, sure doesn't work for the plant. And let's call it plant, because this hemp thing, we can get into that later. The plant, in my view, in the not too distant future, will be descheduled. The start Schedule 3, I get it. These companies are going to get safe banked. Over 500,000 people will be banked. The stocks will be uplisted and trade on U.S. exchanges. It's an absolute tragedy and travesty that Canadian-based plant companies, cannabis companies, can trade here, but the domestic companies can only trade in Canada. Mm-hmm. So I think, I'm not a political guy. I don't donate to politicians. No one pays me. It's just my opinion. But Trump's a transactional guy, and he's in it to win, and he's in it for wins. And legalizing the plant is a huge win. It's a huge win for boomers. Huge win for people who are in prison, because I think they'll be released. It's a huge win for the industry, which is over $50 billion. It's a huge win for everybody who's been fighting this. It's a huge win for my friend Dennis Brush, who has Parkinson's, who takes the Glass House 10-10-10 gummies, and it cures his problems, at least his symptoms. So there's big wins out there for everybody. This is an American issue. This is an American product, not problem, that we can export to Europe and other parts of the world, just like we do wine. So I look forward to what's coming. I do think it's orchestrated. I do think there's a plan. And I give Tyson a whole lot of credit for speaking out and getting behind this. I really do. I really appreciate the fight, and I appreciate your guys' fight, because you guys could have given up a long time ago.
How much validity do you give into the notion that cleaning up the industry, legitimizing the plant, reinforces the notion that we need to put a lid on Chinese gangs and Mexican cartels and the illicit market, and stop that mechanism that's flourishing on our soil as it relates to money laundering, the illicit drug trade, human trafficking? Like, how much does that play into this? Because from an outsider looking in, it's almost a double-edged sword, because he can win on that narrative, and then he can also win on the narrative of legitimizing the plant with people that are advocates and want to see cannabis flourish as a whole.
And he can also win on border security. He can also win on ICE. He can always also win on taxation. I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I'm under something called Chatham House rules with various departments or branches of the government. So I can't say who I'm talking to, but significant people have reached out to me on my view. And most people know me as a short seller. I tend to have done an awful lot in exposing money laundering and financial criminals, and what's going on with Canada, what's going on with the CCP, what's going on with TD Bank, the need for safe banking here. I mean, Maltz, who's the former DEA interim head, when I speak with him, and again, he reached out to me, and he's no longer with the government, so I can mention his name.
Yeah.
His voice literally cracks when you mention the CCP and cartels. It's the absolute worst of the worst, because with it comes fentanyl, and he's put together something of all the teenagers and people who've died through fentanyl. And he knows prohibition is the cause of this. He knows when there is prohibition and people either can't get it, that's when the CCP prospers. So with the proper guardrails, with strict testing, strict IDing under 21, and that includes if you're caught selling cannabis-related products to anyone under the age of 21, it's 1 year in federal prison minimum.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And Trump just built Alligator Alley. That's number one. Number two, everything needs to be strictly tested, traced, and labeled completely, so everyone knows exactly what they're getting. And that includes on the beverage side.
Yep.
And people who say there's way too much THC out there. This isn't your grandfather's marijuana. Well, my suggestion is, and people are listening, you federally tax THC. If you want a low THC product, there's no tax. You want a medium one, there's tax. You want a high THC product, you want to get looped out of your mind, well, then there's a big tax on higher THC. And that way, it generates revenue for the government to either fight or enforce borders, or, you know, the country can put a lot of that money to use. But illicit has to go. Illicit has to stop. Synthetic has to stop. There's no room or place for synthetic. And I think these NC nutraceutical guys are in a whale of trouble. There's been an awful lot of lawsuits filed against them. Their general counsel, who I have great respect for, recently resigned, which usually when you're being sued and you have regulatory issues and your general counsel resigns, that's a very, very, very bad look. Yeah. And those are the guys who are really pushing synthetics. So when synthetics go by the boards, it makes the plant that much stronger. It makes the industry investable. It makes it financeable. It makes it legitimate. You know, again, I'm not a sports online gambler, but until the government made it legal, right, you'd be betting with someone with the mob. Yeah, and you know, and if they don't pay you, they'd break your arm or legs or fingers or whatever. Now you have DraftKings, and if you don't want to play or gamble, Don't gamble. And
Right.
and it's not legal in California. So I think we're going to go federally legal. I think the start's going to be Schedule 3. And I think States 2.0 is probably going to pass. And it should pass. And Trump will support it. And it'll be a state's deal. If you live in Idaho and the government of Idaho doesn't want it to happen, it's not going to happen.
Right.
But this whole argument about hemp, cannabis, intoxicating hemp, synthetics are bad. So that has to go. But McConnell, who brought this whole hemp thing up, making hemp or intoxicating hemp illegal, all that does is play into the cartel's hands.
Yeah.
Let's just call it the plant. And let's just call it whatever the plant is, right? And come with ever rules, standards, guardrails around it. Tax the living hell out of it if you want. States will tax it. And by all means, gear down and do away with these cartels. These are high value targets for ICE and Border Patrol. Okay? These are high value targets. And
let me ask you.
Once I'm gone.
Yeah, I hear you. And this is a lot of stuff you touched on last week. Your conversations with Derek Maltz, like how much up to speed is he on a lot of the stuff that you shared right now? Is this stuff that he's very well versed in, or is this just stuff that he's learning recently through the communication through you?
Both.
Okay.
There's angles to this. He's a patriot. He's a fine man. He's the guy who busted El Chapo on the law enforcement side, on the drugs that are coming through, on the cartels. He's a 15 out of 10. But there's a lot of money laundering, and there's a lot of financial chicanery behind this stuff. And there's a lot of money and property and things to be seized. And he's not as strong there, nor would you expect him to be strong, because he has a drug enforcement background rather than a financial background. So putting someone like myself, who has a financial money laundering, took down FTX, took down Signature, took down Silvergate, helped on Wirecard, mortgage fraud in the U.S. I know all this stuff. And the Treasury guys, they know me. They know me quite well. And I'm very familiar with a lot of the rumblings that went on in Canada. And when you put it all together, you literally have the perfect storm. And the great investing part of it is it all happened. Cannabis is ground zero. It just so happens it's ground zero. It's legal in Canada. It's only legal in certain states here. Hemp's legal in certain, it's just a bastardized way of doing it. And I think Trump, being the transactional and America first and strong border and anti-cartel president, this checks every fucking box. It checks every single box.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, did it surprise you yesterday on the hemp side to see Mitch McConnell saying that he agrees with the appropriations language that got out of committee that would essentially kneecap the hemp industry? It seemed like he did a complete 180 on something that he brought to fruition. Via the farm bill.
He was invested in the hemp business in Kentucky. And that didn't go so well for him. No, nothing surprises me. I mean, the lieutenant governor in Texas talked to a friend of mine because my friend simply said to him, why don't you just strongly age gate under 21 strong ID? That solves the problem. And he said to my friend, if I do that, I'll have no issue.
Yeah.
These guys, same thing with the prohibitionists. That Dr. Sabat, who's about as qualified as Dr. Seuss or Dr. Doolittle, those asshat clowns, they have the blood on their hands because they're being paid off by opioid guys or paid off by CCP operatives. And when you encourage prohibition and don't salute the government for all the busts they've made, right? If you were a true prohibitionists like these clowns are, and you truly believed it was bad, how come they're not out applauding Border Patrol or ICE or DEA for busting these people? They're not out there applauding them. They just keep pushing their bad hand, and pretty soon, Sabat's gonna, be working on the other side of the sugary cola wars or something like that. There's people are entitled to their opinions. People are entitled to disagree. What people can't do is distort the facts for their
That's
own
exactly
for their own ill will. And I
it.
am so fucking sick and tired of
I know.
hearing it dements the youth, it dements the kids, it dements this. Youth and kids do studies on 13-year-olds drinking a fifth of Jack Daniels every day for a year, and then come back to me about cannabis. It's just bullshit. It's bullshit.
It's always drove me crazy that their name is Smart Approaches to Marijuana. Meanwhile, they deny the facts, they deny the data, and if you really wanted to take a smart approach to marijuana, it's legalizing and legitimizing it, because all the data points to the contrary of what they preach. They just want this prohibitionist tact, even when it comes to psychedelics, that they want that they're against any increased accessibility for veterans across the board.
Go talk to anyone who's still alive from the old mob, the old family. Prohibition doesn't work. Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. You don't have to drink. You may not believe in abortion, but legalized abortions in a safe setting by a real doctor are a whole lot safer for the woman than back alley abortions with old prohibition. And I'd rather, if you want to smoke, and I'm not even a smoker, right? I mean, I'm not even a user per se. But if you don't like it, don't partake. And if the government is whatever, then just tax it. That way, the money is used for the greater good. It's used for the greater good. But don't gaslight me or the industry with things about alcohol or youth, because how many people does alcohol kill a year? I mean, my father was an alcoholic and he's dead. My ex-brother-in-law is an alcoholic, and God bless him, he's recovered. But alcohol, gambling, things like that, they destroy people and destroy families. What the hell has cannabis done to an adult? Nothing.
Chris Cuomo was highlighting a few of those things when he had Mike Tyson and Brady Cobb on as well, which they both did a great job in that interview. I was very impressed with Chris Cuomo as well, some of the knowledge that he had for the space. And it's good to get, obviously, this message out there into some bigger reaches, and good for, obviously, Chris Cuomo for doing that sort of thing. But I want this to be a structured approach now as far as next steps, because we got a few people asking when, and I don't want to necessarily say exact date, time, if this happens or not, because that's always something you put your neck out there. And if it doesn't follow through, this is about managing expectations. But if this spending bill gets passed tomorrow, or what's involved in it, do we see a hemp ban? Is that going to happen or no?
I don't know. I mean, I think if anyone wants to reach out to me, if they want to ban hemp without making cannabis fully legal or fully descheduled, I think it's insane, because all you do is you just really encourage the CCP to run wild.
Right.
So again, I'm not one of these guys in Washington taking head counts. I think if he wants to ban hemp, right, or do this, what do you do if you're in Florida, Texas, or North Carolina? What do you then do? Florida and Texas are 1.5 times the size of California. So if you go and ban hemp in the hemp states, okay, what's the consumer then going to go do? They're going to stop? No, that's not going to happen. They're not going to stop. So what are they then going to do? They're then going to go buy illicit, which goes against everything Derek Maltz stands for, goes against everything Trump wants to do: border security, gangs, cartels, CCP. So it would be literally idiotic. But I'm not a voter in those things. So do I think they're going to ban hemp? No, unless you have an off-ramp to people to use cannabis. Or let's make it simple. Let's just call it the plant. Okay? Let's just very simply call it the plant.
Yeah.
That's like saying beer. Okay? Beer is beer. Now, Anthony may like lager, you may like pale ale, I may like stout, but beer is beer is beer is beer. And to say one's legal, one's not legal, there's 3.2 beer in Utah. There's, you can go to, breweries in Northern California and buy 13.1, double IPAs and get fucking and get lit out of your mind. So if you really want to, ban hemp, give people an off-ramp or a way or a road to use legal cannabis. That's all.
Well, the way I look at it is this. You've got hemp, which has got a loophole. You've got cannabis, which is semi-legal, CBD in limbo. This patchwork framework that's been going on, like I feel like that's run its course. It can't go any further. So if you had to read between the lines on what we're seeing and hearing over the past couple of days and look beyond just the story headline, how do you perceive this? Is this actually a good thing indirectly when it comes to cannabis reform?
It's a great thing because, as I call everyone, the band of misfit toys, of which I'm one of them. You have to bring this to a head one way or the other.
Yeah.
The status quo doesn't work. Derek Maltz will tell you prohibition doesn't work, that the CCP stuff is out of control. Okay. How do you fix it? You legalize it, you guardrail it, and then you take your efforts and you crack hard on illicit. And they can crack really hard right now in Maine. There's a brilliant documentary that's out there about all the illicits. Right. They're going to. But when you do that, you have to give, when you want to knock out bathtub gin, you have to give people legitimate gin that has a tax stamp on it that's legal. So, you know what? Let's bring it to a head. The sooner, the better. Trump knows it's a huge win. You guys really hit the nail on the head that the leading thought providers in this country are out in front of it. They know the polling is very strong for it. They know, right? If you limit, the youth, under 21 is not allowed in a casino, and it's a hard check. And I think in New York, if you're caught carrying a gun, you go to jail.
Yeah, jail.
If they make it hard, right? If they make it hard, you're caught selling product to anyone under 21, you're going directly to prison, and that's the federal law. That will knock this shit out. That will stop it. And if the senator from the great state of, let's just say, Nebraska is bitching about THC, then tax the shit out of THC. Not everyone needs to drink or drinks 151 rum.
Right.
But if you drink it, you pay a price. If you want to drive a Ferrari, your insurance for driving the Ferrari is a whole lot higher than driving a Ford Pinto.
Yeah.
So what I try to encourage when I talk to people or talk to people employed by the U.S. government is let's just everyone step back, push away from the table, take a couple deep breaths, and just fucking think. Let's do something, right? It's been this thing has been banned for 50 years, from the Nixon thing, give or take, 60 years. The world has changed quite a bit. It used to be Alex Karras and Paul Hornung were suspended from the NFL for associating with gamblers. Associating. Yeah. They didn't gamble, associated with. Okay? Now LeBron does DraftKings commercials in the middle of the season. Wow. The world has changed. Let's change with it.
Yeah.
Okay? So let's change with it. And again, if you don't like it, don't partake.
Yeah.
If you're a legislature person and you don't like it, say to yourself, would I rather watch the CCP run wild in the United States, killing teenagers with fentanyl-laced cannabis or sprayed cannabis or THC cannabis or moldy cannabis or pesticide? Would I rather have that, or would I rather guardrail it for U.S. companies? What would I rather have?
It's
right.
Guardrailing.
And if you tell me you're against it, just simply tell me what your issue is, and I'll write it in let's just call it the Maltz bill. I'll write it in. But let's get real that this is a $60 billion industry, that DHS estimates that illicit is 15 times that. Illicit is 15 times. So it's a huge industry. It's a huge industry that's American-based, that needs and is dying for simple legislation and regulation so everyone wins and bad guys lose. That's it.
It aligns with everything about this administration, law and order, and everything that they've said. We know about this storyline, but what's great is the momentum it's building because it aligns with the elected officials in Washington right now as to what Trump stands for. And this all being communicated is the momentum that I'm seeing as more and more conversation where the light went off. So that's the encouraging thing. For those logging on right now, this is the TDR Traded Black podcast presented by Dutchie. Anthony Varrell here with Marc Cohodes. Now, we talked about earlier rescheduling. You feel it's going to happen. And look, it's a question I don't like to ask, but I need to ask. Do you think in any way, and here I am speculating a little bit, but with all the stuff that's going on right now in the Trump administration this week with the whole Epstein files and everything like that, this would be a huge political win for the Trump administration. Do you think there's any way at play that this could happen sooner rather than later based on some of the negative feedback as far as the press is concerned that's been going on this week?
Well, when you say sooner rather than later, I mean, I've publicly said till I'm blue in the face, it's happening before September, and everyone calls me crazy. Now, I'm not going to put a timeline on things because I don't know. But if everyone wants to speculate, it could happen any day because the news cycle changes. And everyone's going to forget about Jeffrey Epstein really quickly when he does a very popular thing like this. Very popular.
Mm-hmm.
Don't lose track that this is not your grandfather's Republican Party. This kind of action would be one of the best things in 20 years that Trump could do. And I say that because the Republican Party is perceived as stodgy, old, for the rich, tax breaks for the rich, tax the working class people. And this flies right in the face of it. This is a very, very, very popular thing to do. You have people who are close to Trump saying promises made, promises kept. You have all the athletes behind it. You have prison reform people behind it. You have Alice Johnson, who's the, let him out of prison queen behind it. You have people behind it where this becomes a very popular thing. But I'm not in the president's ear. I know people who are, and I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen rather soon. But that is just going to be the first step of what I think will be many. Because the second you crack it down and reschedule it down, I think then it's going to be full descheduling, or states 2.0 and safe banking to bank people in this industry right now who are not bankable, and the companies who need to raise capital to grow their businesses being uplisted on the stock exchange, which I think is a given. So I mean, again, I'll stick with my before September. I've said it. I said it on Gasparino's thing in the Post. I said it on his thing, and people thought I was crazy. But I said, if you want to bet against me, go right ahead. People have been betting against me my entire life, but I'm up at 3 a.m. and I don't stop till 11 at night till this happens. So if everyone thinks, I'm bluffing, keep betting against me. I don't care. I'm all for it. And by the way, a little off topic, I have nothing against Ben Kovler, nothing. And I have great respect for his family, who's worth billions. And I've said he was born on third base and thought he hit a triple. That is true. Ben has been a bully in this industry. He tells people publicly he thinks everyone's going broke except him. But Ben, you're wrong. If you weren't born into your family, you would be on the streets. And let the guy, and what really ticked me off is this constant harangue of the people who run MSOS, right? Great. It's been a bad investment. It's been a bad industry. Your stock's been a bad investment, Ben, but let everyone do their job. I used to play baseball. I've been on some shitty teams, right? It's not the coach's fault. It's not all the players' fault. It just sometimes is what it is. But you're best to shut your damn mouth, let people do their jobs, and run your damn business. That's all. I'm not picking on you or picking on your family, but you made your point about MSOS. Leave it alone. Let the guys do their damn jobs and let's get on with it. But he's done nothing to help this industry. He's done nothing. He badmouths everyone, thinks everyone's going out of business. And, frankly, his stock is a piece of shit. It's as much crap as anyone else. So, again, I have nothing against him. He knows where to find me. He can easily call me up, and that's that.
AV, you want to follow up? AV, you want to follow up on that?
I tend to agree completely. I mean, I respect Marc's opinion. I respect Ben's what he's done with GTI, but I mean, he hasn't done anything to move reform. Like, he was completely silent on Amendment 3 in Florida. He's been right about the DEA and then wanting to obstruct rescheduling, but he hasn't done anything to the contrary to try to push it forward. He's a troll on Twitter. But I mean, if you want to talk about the entire industry, Anthony is the architect behind Green Thumb. It's not Ben. Yeah. The financial engineering and the reason that company is a powerhouse and what it is, it's Anthony. That's pretty much.
I agree, but he's pushed everyone down so much, no one will step up to him. But if he wants to get in the ring with me, anytime, anywhere, correct. Ben. I mean,
the funny thing is,
okay, guys.
The funny thing is, in the last 2 days, there is a comms director position that's popped up on the GTI job boards for outward facing communications. So that's that's a little bit interesting. Might be cause and effect.
Let's make this productive and constructive, as I said before. What does this industry need to do? Because we're about, as you think,
unite.
Go to the next.
The industry needs to have complete concert amongst the CEOs and amongst the leadership to get stuff done that are not in their that might not potentially be in their own self-interest. That's what needs to happen. We have not had unison and we have not had leadership in concert in the cannabis industry since inception, and that's why we're here and there's been no reform. I mean, we've had certain people try to take the ball and run it across the finish line. You had Kim Rivers put Amendment 3 on her back, which still got shot down, and she put a hell of a lot of money towards the cause. She didn't get any help from anybody else. Kim went in on that alone. That was a true leave initiative. There needs to be concert amongst all of the heads of the MSOs, whether they like each other or not, to finally get this shit over the finish line and get it done. That's what it's going to take.
So if we get rescheduling, and to Anthony's point, and I agree with everything that he just said, Marc, and I'm sure that you do too. What does this industry look like? Is it ready for that next stage? I'm sure there's a lot of people that want rescheduling, regulation, banking, all this sort of stuff. How do you view this industry? Because if this actually comes to fruition, there's a lot of moving parts here that's going to make this industry move very, very fast.
Well, I think crypto is the template. I mean, Anthony's point, I couldn't have said it any better. When the crypto guys started making money and crypto went up after Sam went to prison, once you have money, you're able to spend it on lobbyists and you're able to spend it on politicians. The only person who really has money in the industry is Kovler, because he was born on third base and thought he had a triple. His family is worth billions and billions and billions. Yeah, well, Kovler's family is worth billions and billions and billions of dollars. I mean, they're Jim Beam. So the people who have the money have not really spent it the way crypto or gambling, because gambling has the leagues, have spent it. So I think there'll be a lot of M&A. I think the week will fail. I think there'll be consolidation. I think there will be huge investment banking. I think you'll be left with 5 or 6 really strong companies that some can overlap, some will overlap, some won't overlap, whether you like, the cultivation side or the MSO side. I mean, I have opinions where I think Glass House is a grand slam, but that's just my opinion. And we'll see what happens. But the investment banks will get rolling. Wall Street will get rolling. The MSO, which is the 50th worst performing out of 50 ETFs, will all of a sudden become the second or third or fourth best performing ETF. All the infighting and the bitching better go away. Yeah. It should go away. And I think people will be restructured where the strong become Goliaths and the weak are gobbled up. That's kind of sort of in the medium term. I think you'll see Schedule 3, then the push will be on full descheduling and or states 2.0. Then these companies will uplist, the employees will get banked, Trump will be a hero. Synthetic is going to go by the boards. It has to go by the boards.
Yeah.
There's no reason for it. And I think the discussion will be about the plant. And hemp is a really good plant. You can use all parts of the plant. You can use the stem, the leaves, the flower, the whole thing. So let's just make it plant-based. Let's just make it very simple. Let's make it that legitimate wins and everything structured that the cartels lose. It's an anti-cartel. When you buy, whether it's the MSO or Glasshouse stock or even GTI or what have you, it's a bet on America because these are American grown products and American companies. What's Trump? He's America first. What's Trump? Border security. Okay, that's the cartel. What's Trump? Let's get the bad guys out of the country. What's Trump? Money laundering, organized crime, the whole thing. I mean, FinCEN.
The thing is too with hemp is they need complete seed to sale tracking across the board. Like they have in the state-run industry. Like that needs to be implemented. Yet they need to be implemented yesterday because then you get standardization, you get chain of command, and you get custody around the products, and you can actually track and trace.
I can mail order hemp and pay for it with my Visa card, and it shows up in the post office. I mean,
I did it.
The trivia question is, who's the largest drug distributor in the world? Answer: U.S. Post Office. Correct. Right? Because that's where they ship all this stuff through and pay for it with your credit card. And then the cannabis guys say, wait a minute, it's the same damn plant, and yet we can't do this. You know, we pay taxes. We can't write this off. So everyone, Anthony, I mean, you hit the point. Everyone needs to get on the same damn page, right?
Yes. Hemp guys included.
Yeah. Yes, this is the game of baseball. Some people live with the 3-run home run. Some live with speed. Some live with pitching and defense. But the game is baseball. Everyone could have a different style, a different way of going about it. But the game is the game. And this industry is a fast-growing industry. It's a great industry. There's some outstanding players in it. There need to be management needs, and I think management will be upgraded too as this happens. There's a lot of these guys out there, Kovler included, who are just not ready for prime time. They're just not. They're just not Wall Street savvy centric, or really they know what they're doing.
Well, I think what got this industry a lot of attention was what happened in Texas and what's transpired there for the last 2 months. That really put this whole industry across the country under the microscope. And whether you like it or not, I think it actually is progress. And sometimes some of that progress is a little bit of challenging at first. But ultimately, I think this will actually benefit both regulated industries. Saying that, we're seeing a lot of GOP lawmakers, traditional ones that are actually changing their tone towards cannabis. And I know, like, someone like Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, he's not part of Congress. What do you think these guys start to shift if we start to write? Like, are they open to, you think, regulation, Mark, where it's just like, we look at this as 21 and older, as you said? Like, how do you convince some of these people that, look, if you want to solve the problem of staying away from use, to make it 21 and older?
Well, first of all, you have midterms coming up. And I think the Republicans want to have their majority, at least federally. And this is a hell of a campaign issue. And this is a hell of a thing to defer, you know, if anyone's a loser in the BBB or anyone's pissed off on Epstein. If I was running as a House member, I would embrace this and say you're part of the new Republican Party. And this is very, very, very progressive and is a plus. That's on the federal level. On the state level, I think the lieutenant governor is going to get voted out. I think he's a complete idiot.
He's done.
And I think he's A, going to lose, and B, he was clearly paid off by the prohibitionists, the opioid guys, or the CCP, because you know, clearly the governor waited to the last hour, and I said it before, he clearly got a call from Washington and said, you better do this because we're going to make you look really stupid really soon. So if you go and do this, again, what McConnell wants to do with hemp is prohibition. And prohibition doesn't work. It's been proven it doesn't work. So you know, you can't And Mitch McConnell's not up for reelection, so he'll do, he just doesn't care. But to me, if I was politically inclined, I would wrap my arms around this issue and say, let's go all the way, because it would get the people who are in this and where it's hugely popular to get off their ass and actually vote for you. And the people who are prohibitionists are going to go away. I think the word prohibition is going to come back, because I wasn't around when alcohol, went off prohibition. I was around when gambling went off prohibition. That's for sure. But I think prohibition in this is a really, really, really good thing. I mean, I don't know if you guys have kids. My kids are older. My girlfriend has a 13-year-old. And, I told him, even though he's 13, you don't drink something that's been handed to you that's open. You don't smoke something that's been handed to you. You sure don't take anything or ingest anything that's been handed to you. And I think there's a lot of really bad stories of kids or youth or even in their 20s who smoked a joint for their first or second or third time, and it was laced with fentanyl, and they're dead, right? So I think people who play, right, or participate would really need, and demand a very safe supply. And I think that's all part of it. That's part of border security. That's part of American First. That's part of the youth not dying. That's part of knocking out the CCP. That's part of every dollar of illicit sold is a dollar that's not taxed by the state of California or the state of Florida or the state of Texas, or with my THC thing, federally. So think of the tax revenue from on the state level when you knock out illicit and gate, track, trace, test, label legal. I mean, the revenue coming into each state is going to be big. So when you say politically, there's a whole lot here that can work. If I was a politician, I would grab any one of those. If you're an older person and you don't partake, say, don't worry, Lola. We're gonna tax Shad, because he's a huge THC user, and you'll be happy, and I'll keep your property taxes low, because I'll be able to tax more. We're knocking out illicit, so we're going to get another $400 million in just by excise tax. So I won't have to raise your property tax, because I'm going to get less from the feds. And if you participate, Anthony, I'm here to tell you, you will now have a safe supply. Everything you buy will be coded. It'll have a tag on it, or those little shiny stickers or something, to know exactly where it was grown, when it was harvested, when it appeared at the store, and exactly what's in it. And it's going to be the same for beverages, because clearly the liquor business is going downhill. The beer industry is going downhill. And I think my pal Todd Harrison calls it California sober. So whether it's a gummy or it's a hemp drink or what have you, people are doing different things. You're going to find these drinks at ballparks, in my view, in the not too distant future. You're going to find them at hockey games, basketball games, concerts in the not too distant future. And you don't wake up after drinking a few of these the next day bloated, hungover, your eyes spinning, anything like that. So it's kind of like the fantastic thing about living right now is it's all coming together at once.
Yeah, and what you said before,
all roads are converging, and we have the perfect president for it, because he's no bullshit guy.
And to your point, when we sit back 20 years from now and look back at this time and the amount of time and effort and change, it's going to seem so foreign to people that are 18 years old that are now 38 with their own families and having that drink at a sporting event. Like, it goes back to the days of smoking cigarettes on airplanes. Like, that just seems so abnormal now, but times change. And I think,
dressing up when you went on an airplane. It used to be when I was little, and again, this is a long time ago, people would get on airplanes, they'd be wearing a coat and a tie.
Yeah, I
It was
know.
like a luxury to go on an airplane. Now it's like flying on the Greyhound bus. But what's going to be extra great, and I can't wait for it, is when you guys are able to talk about like real fundamentals and real things going on, rather than all this bullshit running through quicksand all the time. And
I
then
know.
instead of having 50,000 views, you'll have 550,000 views, and you'll
I
say,
know.
shit, I remember when that Cohodes fellow, when we were right on the cusp of it, where is he? And then you'll say, well, he made so much money in Glass House, he's disappeared. Right? We don't know where the hell he is. We can't find him anymore. He's in
Yeah.
witness protection. But I look forward to those days. But I think we're there. I think we are right there.
Well, that was
Brian,
go ahead and ask your question.
what's going on tomorrow that you keep alluding to is going to be interesting? I'll let him reply in the comments, but he just keeps saying something about tomorrow with the industry. And I completely agree with you. I mean, that THC is going to be normalized. In the next couple of years. I mean, 2 years ago, I didn't see it again this year. 2 years ago, you could buy cannabis beverages at the Stanley Cup Finals for the Panthers. It's going to be completely normalized. What has to do with that? I don't know what's appropriations being. Okay. I think the turning point for hemp is going to be on the 21st when Abbott gets to sink his teeth into SB3 and actually maybe use some pragmatism and come up with something that is actually best for Texas and best for that industry as a whole and does the right thing. The best thing that he could have done was veto that bill and pitch it to the special session which he can hopefully come with some common sense to regulate cannabinoids in Texas, because God knows they need to be.
Yeah. Also want to highlight too off the top, I said former Senator Mitch McConnell. He's still very much a senator. He's retiring at the midterm elections. So duly noted, and correcting myself there. But listen, we'll leave it with this. Bring this all together, Mark. You mentioned earlier, forget the term that you used, that you speak to certain people that you can't mention. What was it? Chatham? What was that?
House rules.
Yeah, Chatham House rules. I can discuss what was talked about, but not the people you discuss it with.
Okay. So I'm not looking to see who you discussed it with, but for the viewers that are out there that feel they've heard this story time and time again, leaving this off, why is this different? And I know you kind of outlined it again, but you feel confident that we are going to get some rescheduling happening this summer.
Yes, I'm highly confident. I will recap it. Trump, whether you like him or not, and I'm not political, is a transactional, populist, want to win, want to do the right thing president.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he is. And he hates cartels. He wants border security. He wants to raise revenue where he can. He's cut taxes for the wealthy. The middle class, maybe they're not as happy about it. But this is a revenue generator. This is a popular idea. It's an industry that's America first, that is growing very fast, that can grow faster.
Mm-hmm.
It's ICE and Border Patrol, which are moving on illegals or people who want to bring bad things to the United States. This will give a focus of knocking out illicit while benefiting Americans. It makes the country safer. You have less deaths. You have a revenue raiser. You have a product that people like and want to use, where the laws are curious at best. Trump is a states' rights guy. There's the States Bill 2.0, which addresses safe banking, which addresses everyone can do what they want, what they can in the States, and it makes everything legal. Synthetic will go. Synthetic is not good for anyone. NC Nutraceuticals is on the edge. They're not in good shape. They are the ones who've lobbied for synthetic. Their demise is a plus for synthetic going away.
Yeah.
So my sum of this all would be no parent, no straight thinking person wants anyone under the age of 21 using this stuff, buying this stuff, or people being involved in testing of the stuff. Ask whoever you want, from law enforcement to people in or around organized crime. Prohibition doesn't work. It doesn't work. This is prohibition. This is prohibition, and you've enabled the Chinese cartels. So if you check this box,
Yeah.
everyone wins. Everyone wins. And if you don't like it, then I say, who is paying you to not like it? Because no forward-thinking person can say this is a bad idea.
Last thing I'll add.
And the last thing I want to throw on top of it is, if you're a liquor distributor or you're a beer distributor, you're clearly going into 21 and older places, whether it's a liquor store or a bar or a casino or places like that. Do not discount the concept that liquor distributors or liquor companies want in here. If you think for a minute that liquor companies do not want in the hemp beverage business, you're sadly mistaken. Okay. And they can easily, along with their case of bud or their booze, bring in gummies, bring in hemp drinks, bring in flour to over 21 places, and liquor becomes the vehicle and the distributor of this product. So I think liquor sees this as a huge growth opportunity when their base business is falling apart. So if you guys had your base business falling apart, the first thing you do to Anthony is say, Anthony, how do we replace our business, which is down 30% year over year? And Anthony would say, Shad, let's start distributing cannabis drinks. Let's start distributing flour. Let's start distributing gummies, because it's the same customer. It's all over 21 places. And
you got to roll with the times. You got to roll with the times.
Exactly. You roll with it, or you will just become extinct. Correct. There are no more cigarette vending machines. There are no more payphones. Right? There is no more corner bookie.
You remember those old cigarette machines? You'd pull those things out and
exactly. I mean, it just and that's the way it used to be. I mean, so I think we are at that time, and I think it may happen sooner than people think.
Okay,
but at a minimum, fellas, I'm nonstop here. I am all gas, no brakes.
Yeah.
So if anyone and I'm not letting go of the rope anytime soon.
So one last important question, because we talk about the reform side, but the whole reason why we started this company was the business side, the investing side. In the event that there is rescheduling, what do you see happens here? Because it still doesn't really allow a lot of new institutions to come in and buy, but you're going to see obviously a flurry of buying take place based off that announcement alone. But what are you anticipating if that in the event that does get announced, and what that'll attract as far as new investors? Because this is probably going to get some mainstream coverage across the board.
Well, I think you'll get huge investment in the space. I think NASDAQ, which already, and the New York Stock Exchange already trades these stocks. I mean, the New York Stock Exchange, which is ICE, was founded, and it's run by a guy named Jeff Spreckler. And his wife, Kelly, is the head of the SBA. You don't think for a minute Trump is going to not say, how in the living hell are we trading Canadian companies here and not these U.S. companies? This is insane. Yeah. Jeff, trade the U.S. cannabis companies in the United States. There's going to be 80 of them. It's good for America. It's good for the business. Why are these U.S. companies trading in Canada? It's going to happen. And people.
So you think that moves? You think that moves fast then once rescheduling is announced?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think everything. We're in a world where everything moves fast.
Do you think a lot of these MSOs that are on the OTC will move a lot even before that happens? Let's say the announcement. I'm just saying, for example, 2 weeks from today, you see a lot of buying power taking place immediately afterwards.
I don't know. I mean, my focus on that's just simply Glasshouse. I'm Glasshouse, and I think Glasshouse is going to go to 60. So I the MSO, in my conversations with Noah, I think they own too much garbage that's not going to be around, but that's his business. And I think everyone's used to buying the MSO, so I think the MSO will fly, and then everyone's going to figure out who the winners are and who the losers are.
Yeah,
and I think the best position best managed companies. I mean, you look at Glasshouse Management versus Kovler. I mean, Kyle and Graham aren't sitting there telling the guy who runs MSO how to run his business. They're sitting there working their ass off to make things at Glasshouse better, and they're doing what they can to help the industry. Kyle wants prisoners out of jail, on and on and on. I mean, everyone's pulling the rope except Ben. So, I mean, I can't predict the future.
No, I
But
hear you.
money will come in. Private equity will come in, sadly.
Yeah.
Banks will loan these guys money, and you're going to see massive consolidation. And I think, the stocks in general, the best companies will move a lot. The shakier ones probably won't. And your guys' users and subscribers will go from 50,000 to 500,000. And they'll say, God, I remember when you had that Cohodes guy on the show, but he's disappeared.
I'm not going to lie. Ever since that show came on last Monday, I'm looking at our metrics, and it's definitely make a turn for the better. But we're producing some big numbers in the last little bit. Went a little bit of a down.
Well, this is the go-to spot.
Yeah.
And again, we don't all have to agree, but we all have to at least have our facts straight.
Yeah.
Well,
we can all come to a different opinion, but Mark can't use Mark facts, and you guys can't use your facts, and the Sam or whatever the hell they call themselves, those guys. I mean, I'd love to know who actually donates to them. I'd actually love to know where they get their money from, but they use their own facts. And Alex Berenson's my friend. He did a huge story about me, 20 some years ago on the front of the New York Times, but he is not in position at all to be bad mouthing this space at all. So I highly recommend to him he shut his mouth and go about his COVID related business, because if he wants to get into it, I'm more than happy to get into it with anybody.
Yes, and I'm very, very learning that quickly about you, but that's okay. That's your opinion. But the big thing I want to get out here today is just that, look, you've mentioned that you've talked to some pretty important people. You feel very, very optimistic and very positive rescheduling announced. And then once that is announced, we will get probably a lot of momentum building quickly when it comes to banking and uplisting. And I think that's kind of the roadmap that I want people just to understand, appreciate, and really know how they can navigate what they're doing, as far as, like, this is not investment advice, but at least know the story and the, I guess, the road that you're walking down. So as always, appreciate you logging on here today. And I'm sure we'll get a lot of great feedback, but if we get some sort of announcement, we'll definitely reach out real quick and have you back on and talk about the next chapter of this book, because I think we're just getting started.
We are just getting rolling. And I give you guys credit for not letting go of the rope. It would have been very easy to quit, give up, throw in the towel, or things like that at any point in time. And I admire you guys for staying after it. And it's a real credit to what you guys do.
I'm not going to go too deep, but I will say this. This business, when I launched it, in a lot of ways saved my life. So when people talk about why you have so much effort to keep this going, I love what I do, and I love meeting people like yourselves, and obviously having Anthony on every single day, that we built a great relationship. But here's hoping we get some rescheduling, and we can take a small part in trying to bring to light this industry, because it rightfully deserves it, knowing how many hurdles that we've had to jump over the last, especially 5 years. But fingers crossed. But all in all, this has been a great interview, and I feel better. And I'll get everybody kind of, take away their own perspective of it all. But most importantly, as I said, let's keep in touch. Okay.
Never forget, luck favors the well prepared.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, sir.
And we're ready. Thanks again, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Take care. Yeah.
All right. Well, I knew it was going to be great. And, I think a lot of stuff that he had mentioned was from last week, but next steps was some of the news that we've heard over the last 9 days. But he feels confident. And I thought it was telling, too, just some of the people that he's been having conversations with. I wasn't sure if he was going to mention Derek Maltz's name, but clearly because he's no longer in politics, that's something that he could share with. But I thought that was really interesting, some of the feedback that he outlined to us.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind of information over the last week and a half.
Hasn't it?
Yeah. And it's I think he's right. You're going to see consolidation. You're going to see some concentration in a couple of names in terms of price action, and then you're going to see some names that just get no love whatsoever. There's a couple out there that are probably should be on people's radar in terms of torque if the conditions decide to change.
Yeah. Dre_TRT. Appreciate the donation. Very much appreciative. As well, David Benz, I think he wrote at the end, Brady Cobb gave an interview yesterday with Mike Tyson. Yes, with Chris Cuomo, as I said.
Chris Cuomo.
Check it out. It's good. And Chris Cuomo, he's a pro for a reason. I thought that interview that he did was incredible.
So, Cole, Alex Jordan actually deleted that post. So not sure what to think of it in terms of what it meant. But
here come the names. Here come the flames flooding in. The cannabis. Look, there's. No,
I wouldn't say it's that. I mean, in all transparency, I've been buying TerrAscend and Verano. I mean, look at the financing that Jason did this morning, and you'll understand that he's a fiduciary to his shareholders. Warrantless refi. I think it was a 12.75% rate, and knocked it out until August 2028. That and Verano are two of the only companies that I'm buying right now.
I bought MSOs today, full transparency. So there we go. And I'll let you people kind of do your own due diligence. But all in all, feel good, feel optimistic. Just need it to happen, though, right now. And we'll see what happens. So with that, and let's see what happens. If we get any big news, whatever it is, tomorrow, we'll keep you posted if we jump onto a last-minute live stream. But if not, then we'll see you back here Friday morning at 11 a.m. But it's been a great week.
Mitch, TerrAscend didn't close all their locations in Michigan. They're in the process of selling all of their locations in Michigan, which is going to give them about a 9% top-line hit. But it's actually going to increase their margins and make them more profitable. And with the financing they did today, it frees up $35 million for M&A transactions. And then that cash, I'm assuming, will go to paying down debt and or accretive acquisitions. Them getting out of Michigan was actually received pretty well by the market. The stock went from, I think, 26 to 34 today on the close. So Jason and Ziad, 34 on the close. So Jason and Ziad's strategy seems to be well received by the market to exit. They ripped the Band-Aid off of something that needed to be ripped off. I think of it just as Michael DeGiulio spinning off the veggie business for Village Farms. What needs to be done, and then they move forward.
Lots of great feedback here. Man, It's been a long time since we talked about stocks, but
my nanny's leaving and I got to go grab the baby.
All right, sir. Well, listen, great for checking in and great podcast today. I'll see you back here at 11. Make sure, people, you stay close. If there's any information that we have, you want to stay connected, make sure to scan that QR code to become a Daily Baked In newsletter subscriber. Now is the time to subscribe if you haven't done so already, because there is lots of stuff coming down on a 24-hour basis. So stay connected, scan that QR code, and like I said, become a Baked In newsletter subscriber. Appreciate everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you back here Friday at 11 a.m. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Well, I liked that one, didn't you? Let us know by leaving your comments below and stay connected with us here at the Trade to Black podcast. We appreciate you logging on here today and learning more information about where this industry is headed. If you have time, make sure to like, subscribe, and smash on that bell for all notifications, and keep the conversation going by leaving some comments below. We always love to get your feedback. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks again for watching our latest Trade to Black podcast.